Okay, good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming to the Today's Restaurant News Networking Group. We are a group of restaurant vendors who are experts in our field, and we look forward to talking with any restaurateur who might have a issue that they would like to solve. Feel free to give us a call or go on our website, trnusa.com or 561-620-8888. We have hundreds of years of experience in this group, and if you come to a meeting and meet us, we will try to help you solve the problem that you have. If we are not able to, we can direct you to somebody who may be able to. During the week, this past week, I made a connection. Well, let me back up one second. I think it's really important, especially now, for people in this group, because we're going to have more and more people watching on YouTube, to do a presentation so that we as a group can understand what you do a little bit better, and people who may watch it on YouTube can get a better understanding of what you do. So right now I'm looking to schedule presentations for the upcoming weeks. So if you want to do a presentation, and even if you've done one before, it's okay, because you can get involved in something that you might be doing in a different light, or get involved a little bit more in depth. It's important to do that. So any volunteers at the moment? If not, you give me a call, send me an email, and let me know about it. Like I said, it's very important.
I'd do the 30th if it's available, Howard.
30th of
September.
You got it. That's my son's birthday.
Very cool.
All right. Okay, anybody else? Okay, also want to mention about our private Facebook page. In order to get on that private Facebook page, you must be a member of this group in good standing, and we post information on that page, which is, I feel, important for the group, for the members, that possibly leads. I do post, and Terry does occasionally put some information up of some hot leads, and it's for you to contact each other during the week. So it's important. At the end, if you want to get on that page, you must friend me first on Facebook. I didn't set it up that way. That's the way Facebook has it. So if you friend me at Howard Appel, then I can invite you onto the private page. That's that. So as I was saying, during the week, I came across, I think it's new, I'm not sure, Darren may know more than I on this, an organization called Ben's Meeting. It's a company, an organization that is involved with food service workers who are struggling with drug and alcohol addiction and problems. And as a effect of those two issues, the suicide rate in this country is going up, and suicide in our industry is becoming a problem. And take, for example, Anthony Bourdain. Nobody would have expected anything like that. No, you know, knowing him from the outside, you never would expect him to do what he did. So that's a tremendous topic. And I just heard this morning that the restaurant industry is sort of like the canary in a mine. when it comes to the fentanyl crisis. And we have a lot of people in the industry working odd hours, exposed to alcohol and drugs. And so we are in the forefront of that. And anybody who is suffering from that needs to get help. I'm not an expert at all on any of what I'm saying right now. So if you have anything to say, please jump in and make a comment, or because it definitely affects our labor supply in the industry. We are suffering from lack of labor, and this is putting people who are in the industry more at risk. And it's going to affect everybody's bottom line at some point.
Yeah, Howard, you raise a very, very, very important point here. First of all, Florida is known for a lot of drug and alcohol rehabilitation centers. But I know of an individual, his name is Rabbi Niesnop. He's in Sebring, Florida. Not only does he have a rehabilitation center there, but they actually have a restaurant right in the facility itself. It's a big, enormous home there. And they train a lot of their victims are suffering from alcohol and drug addictions to be restaurateurs and entrepreneurs and to servers and then they train them and then they get jobs for them out in the community there. So it's very interesting what he does. He has top chefs. I don't know who exactly they are, and they're rehabilitating and they're training a lot of these people. He lives partly in Boca, and then he also lives in this facility in Sebring, Florida. So it's very, very interesting. And he's training people so that they're able to work as workers and visitors and maintenance people and everything, specifically in the restaurant industry.
And these are people who are suffering
from drug addiction, alcohol, and suicide. Some of them have post-traumatic stress disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very interesting. And he's a rabbi, and he runs this whole drug treatment program, rehabilitation, and they actually have a restaurant right in I don't know whether it's a resort or a hotel. I haven't been there, but Helen knows more about.
Well, I used to work with his wife in another setting, so.
Right.
Well, I mean, we have some people in this group like Chris Rodriguez. You were in management position in restaurants. How did this problem
I was
affect
beyond management. I was executive level and was faced with, this conversation unfortunately kind of connects with the one about legal documentation to be able to work. When you're running a large company, a little bit different maybe than running a one-off, mom and pop restaurant, but at the end of the deal, the problems are the same. On the one hand, you try to establish a functional organizational culture. So you talk about things like, we're gonna be compliant with all federal and state government laws. Okay, that applies to things like serving liquor to minors. You got a card. You got to teach your people how to do that. But then you all of a sudden draw a line and say, well, we're going to ignore certain laws, like they have to have an I-9 and prove eligibility to work in the United States. Well, guess what? The same thing. The same conundrum exists with drugs. And let's face it. Let's look at who the workforce is in the restaurant business. Okay, they're not our best and brightest. Okay, they're not people who are going to go on to have master's degrees and PhDs. The average server, somebody's taking 7 years to figure out what they want to be when they grow up. Going through college, they change their major 2 or 3 times. Most of the ones that work in the kitchen come from low income arenas. In my experience in Southeast Louisiana and the New Orleans market in particular, most of our cooks could barely read, they could barely write. I literally had cooks work for me that somebody had to teach them what the characters were on a ticket so they knew what food to cook because it couldn't even read the tickets. And along with that, there is a connection between poverty, there's a connection between drugs, yet you live in an environment where for workers' comp purposes, they have to be drug tested if they have an accident. So guess what? They either don't want to work for you if they're getting drug tested, or they hide the fact that they have accidents. And we live in this world where, we're constantly having to, play Solomon and split the baby and figure out what side of the law do we want to fall on. You add to that, you have people who, you have a lot of people in this country who made mistakes as young people, serve time in jail, that deserve a second opportunity. But you have conflicting or confusing laws that as employers you have to try to follow. Okay. And there's a lot of gray area too. Okay. It's called negligent hiring. Negligent hiring, if you hire somebody who has a conviction that specifically could have a negative impact on coworkers or clientele. Okay. Well, define that in an absolute. That's a total judgment call. People tend to run away from it. Okay. So all of this ends up being, we have an industry that has high drug use, period, end of story, because of the nature of who we get to hire for our workforce. And guess what, guys? That's not new. It was like that when I was 19 years old and I was a cook in 1978. Hadn't changed. So there needs to be, I think there needs to be, we complain about we can't hire people, but there's a lot of people out there that we could be hiring. Unfortunately, they probably had a run-in with alcohol. They probably had a run-in with drugs. Or probably had a run-in with the law in the past. So you asked Howard, that's, I keep finding myself hopping on a soapbox the last few meetings, but, I've seen a lot of it. I'll tell you a story. We had a guy who, as a young person, was accused of being, he was an accessory to a theft in a business that he worked in. Okay. Managed to have it, quote unquote, expunged from his record, except one of our owners was a friend of the sheriff's department, and somebody in the sheriff's department happened to be involved in his case, and tells the owner, well, that guy, he went to jail for stealing. Now, if it's expunged from your record, that's not supposed to be discussed. That particular owner wanted me as the CEO of the company to fire this guy, who by this time had made it all the way into management. And we had to draw a line in the sand and say, you know what? He's a great employee. He's a good kid. He deserves a second chance. He deserves an opportunity. We're not going to fire the guy. But that goes on in our business all the time.
Right.
And the bottom line is most people in our business come from the hourly employees, face it, most of them come from a troubled background. Most of them have to be looked at as they're a human being. They deserve a second chance. But at the same time, you're constantly on this fine line. Do you follow the law organizationally, set the right expectation for your people, or do you circumvent the law, whether it's hiring illegals, whether it's getting around drug testing and all the other stuff that you're just constantly stuck in this which way do you turn dynamic.
So
it's very, very difficult.
Yeah. So what does a restaurateur or a corporate management do to negate that fact in the hiring process?
Organizationally, we felt like we had no choice but to follow federal and state law when it came to legal documentation to work. Because here's the other thing: you can do it till you get caught, and the fine. Anybody aware what the fines are? Some businesses, you get caught with a couple of illegals, the fines are enough to put you out of business anyway. if INS comes in. You know, on the drug side, you know, we had drug testing policies, okay? And we kind of had to take case by case what we were going to do with people if they had a drug. The first thing was always confronting them. Do you have a problem? If so, we think you should get into some kind of a program rather than fire. We ended up starting an outreach program to intentionally go out and hire people convicted of minor crimes. You know, certainly you don't want to hire a Jeffrey Dahmer, for example, but you know,
You don't want that in your
some
dinner.
kid who, you know, possession or a minor theft issue or something that deserves a second chance. We tried to reach out and, you know, work with programs to hire those people. But it's the hiring environment is challenging, which is my point, and the conflicting laws don't make it any better for employers. Now, I was working with a client and helping them put together some of their HR policies and a HR training program, and I ran across a case study about alcoholism. You may not know this, but alcoholism is protected under the Americans with Disability Act. Okay, so this particular case, and I may not get all the details right, but it was about a trucking company that had hired somebody. Turns out he had an alcohol problem, but because he admitted he had an alcohol problem, he immediately goes from, you can get fired under DOL law because you can't drive a truck if you're an alcoholic or you're under the influence of alcohol. But the minute you say, I have a problem, you're now protected under ADA. It's very difficult to work in the HR environment. And there's a host of problems that employers have to navigate through. I feel sorry for these, you know, one-off individual restaurant owners because most of them don't know half the laws that they're stuck with. They have no clue the environment they're dealing with. They have no clue.
It's a tough problem to deal with. And Darren and I were talking earlier. A lot of people in general, not just in the industry, but a lot in the industry, use drugs and alcohol as a cover-up for depression. And then that's what leads to the suicide rate. Am I stating that correctly, Darren?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, Chris, you're hitting the nail on the head with that, you know, the restaurant industry is one of the few industries that hires people that have some sort of criminal past, you know, and that's gives them a second shot. And most of those people do turn out to be great employees, as you said as well. But it's a high stress job. And, you know, when you're in a high stress job, and as you said, Howard, with very irregular hours, it leads to anxiety. You know, when the shift stresses are high, it leads to depression, as you said. And it's, you know, these people are, you know, it happens not just in the restaurant industry, but it happens in police and fire rescue. It happens in stockbrokers. It happens in car salespeople and automotive dealerships. Any place where you're basically feast and famine sometimes on your income. You don't have like a stable, steady income. It leads to people self-medicating their anxiety, their depression, etc. That's how my brother originally got into cocaine. He was a car salesman at a very prominent dealership down here, and it just was something they did to burn off steam or celebrate when they had a big sale, etc., or give them the energy, as they wanted to say, to get through a long day. Alcohol and drug abuse are used a lot of times just as a medication, because if you get on an antidepressant or an anxiety medicine, they can kind of flatline you a little bit, and you kind of, as people I know say, they stop feeling, you know, and they want to feel again, and so they'll get off the medicines and go back to drug and alcohol to try and self-medicate, which is a very dangerous combination. I work a lot with suicide survivors, people who have lost someone to suicide, and I hear the stories all the time, and it's cross industries. We've had several come from restaurant, you know, the person worked in the restaurant industry. We've had, you know, people who work for major corporations, and are in very high level management positions. So it's not just to one industry, it's across the board in our country. We have a mental health crisis. That's the bottom line, underlying fact. And stresses are high. It's happening in colleges right now. If you wanted, that's the fastest trend right now, is because these kids who finished high school in COVID, remote learning, they aren't prepared for a college curriculum in person right now, and they're struggling. And that is really overwhelming the university systems, because you don't have enough mental health people on staff to talk with these kids. And I just know, like at UCF, for instance, and I've heard this from a couple of my students who went up there from our robotics program, to get in to see a counselor is a 3-month wait.
Oh my God.
How can you mitigate a crisis when you can't see someone for 3 months? So that is the bigger issue. And then that does lead to, well, what do I do in the alternative? Okay, I can't get in to see somebody. So that's kind of the group you're describing, Howard. It's I think it's Ben's Friends, I think is the name of the organization. It started out of, I think, San Antonio, Texas. And ultimately what it was is it gave a safe place for people to talk about their struggles. And that's kind of what our survivor group is too, is to talk about struggles, because everybody struggles with things, and it's how you handle those struggles. And sometimes if you can get in a group of people who are at the same place you're at, you can work through it in a much easier fashion. So I think that's kind of what that group is about, is giving them a safe place to talk about it. Because if you go to your employer and say, hey, I'm struggling right now and I've kind of turned to drugs and cocaine, you may lose your job. And those are the types of things that, and then at that point, what does that person do? Now, not only do they have a drug problem, but now they don't have employment. So it's a very fine line to walk in how you get through it. And I wish I could say I had the answers, but the bottom line is until we treat mental health the same way we do physical health, if someone came into their employer and said, hey, I just found out I have cancer, they're going to be, oh my God, that's terrible. What can we do to help you? We're going to be behind you 100%. Now, someone comes in and says, I'm battling depression. Well, you just need to pull yourself up. Come on, man, get with it. What are you doing? It's treated very differently. And that is.
I just want to kick in here. I want to talk to you about this later, Howard, but I have an expertise in this area. And I want to just say that, especially with the restaurant industry, and I don't want to get, I think we should focus on that, is that if you see somebody, an employer, whether they have a drug addiction or alcohol, I think it's very important to connect with some sort of a rehabilitation facility, so that that employer and the rehabilitation can make a connection and with the right kind of support system and the right training so that they'll be able to employ. I mean, we all saw Faith Farms, for instance. They're a rehabilitation facility. They train their workers to sell furniture. A lot of them are excellent in what they do, and there's a connection between the facility and the employers out there. So if somebody's looking for a job, and in the restaurant industry, there needs to be a certain degree of continuity where the restaurateur can feel support, and the agency can kick in and give the restaurant employer that support so that they're able to work, and there is that opportunity out there.
Based on what I've heard this morning, the problem is when you have people, as a restaurant manager, if you have people working for you and you lay out your schedule for the week, and John A is scheduled to come in at 9 o'clock Monday morning, and if he doesn't show up because he had a big weekend or whatever the problem is based on drugs and alcohol, the restaurateur is down one person. He's got to substitute or jump into that job. So the staffing of the restaurant, it plays a big role in the successful operation of a restaurant. So the management has to recognize what's going on with their employees, so that if they see somebody who may be struggling, and if they care enough about them, they can say, hey, Joe, what's going on? Is there something that can be done? Something like Darren said, it's a pandemic, going on, and you take the wrong drug and you end up dead in a walk-in box.
But that's in every industry. It's not just the
Of course.
restaurant.
Of
Exactly.
course, but
But the fact that people are working 70+ hours for low pay is, a whole thing. It's not like you're at a 35, 40-hour desk job.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in here. It's very, very prevalent, obviously, in the restaurant hospitality, but also the contractor side. You see, it's very interesting because a lot of my current payroll clients, what they're doing, they have to be very careful how they communicate with their employees and ask those questions. What they're doing now is they're changing check dates. So their check date is no longer a Friday. They're bringing the checks into a Wednesday, especially now that we're getting into season. The employee has to be scheduled and they're working in order to get that check, as
Right.
opposed to getting it on Thursday or Friday and then disappearing, calling in during their busy time. So you're seeing a swing. So it's more and more prevalent as time goes on and getting into season. We're seeing this transition into the midweek payday.
yeah, and I think Jeremy's got a program of people getting paid immediately.
Well, what I think is important, and that's a lot of the value that I try to bring in, not only to the restaurant industry, but to other industries, is having that employee buy-in and having that support system for employees, that they know what your brand is and your service, what the service level should be. And if you are paying attention to your employees and letting them know you don't need to be a server for the rest of your life, you don't need to be stuck in the kitchen for the rest of your life, and giving them that value of you are worth more, but right now this is what you are, and let's empower you to be the best that you can be. Then you have those second thoughts of like, no, I don't want to go out with my friends till 4 a.m. when I have to be at work at 9 a.m. because my company is paying attention to me. It may not sound like that's exactly how it works, but when you put some value into your employee and pay attention to them and let them know, like, this is my restaurant, but you are a part of my team, and I want you to give value, and I want you to have input, and I want you to strive, and I don't want you to be a server here forever. Although that might sound like a great idea for me as an owner to have that stability, I want you to move on and be better, and just to be able to have those conversations. But you get stuck in those places of people don't show up. We don't have, our food distribution didn't come in, and it's just that high pressure cooker. And yeah, there is a lot of drugs, and also the industry itself is a drug. I mean, you get those moments where it's so busy, you can't think about anything else. And then all of a sudden there's that drop, and there's a lull in time where there's nothing to do. And that side work, it's just like daunting, and you don't want to do it. And that's where the trouble starts. And I've seen that. I worked in printing, I worked with the SEC, and it's the same, it's those same high and lows. But if we're not caring and taking care of our employees and giving them value, that's where they're going. They're going to the drugs, they're going to the alcohol. Alcohol is so readily available in every restaurant. That's the easy way in. And you look at towns that have that are at a low economic place, and people that are in these industries, and that's their survival rate. Like, that's all they're around. So if you have a company that's a restaurant or a business that is able to see the value in people and really grow them, there are so many programs. I actually was pitching to a rehab center in Florida. He was in Fort Lauderdale, because I know that Marriott hotels were doing work with people that were incarcerated but were in good standing, and also people that, like it is kind of equivalent in most instances of people that are in rehab. They do have some kind of a record for whatever reason. And I was able to pitch to him that model, but it was too risky for the rehab center because of a lot of insurance issues. And, being a small mom and pop shop, they've taken so many risks with just trying to trust people off the street, that to really kind of adapt that program would be difficult. But I think it's an important, and I'm glad to see that there are some places that are doing it. And yeah, I'd rather not see another person in a bag. I'd rather see people be thriving and growing. And those are things that I try to do to help not only this industry, but, you know, every industry out there.
Debbie, that's spot on. You know, as you're
Yep.
saying, it's building that culture of acceptance and growth, and knowing that they have an opportunity. And I think that's fantastic. Howard and I were talking, you know, earlier on, right before everybody got on, about that to some degree, in the sense of it's getting harder and harder for small businesses to survive because of all the things you need to be able to do. So, you know, from the restaurant standpoint, there's so many regulations, as Chris was saying, that you've got to deal with. There's so much of this that you have to deal with. Having an HR person, you know, you can't afford an HR person when you're a smaller business. So people are joining forces and becoming larger conglomerates, but then that personal touch is going away. But as you were saying, like in the Marriott case, it also can bring some of the great programs in, like you're describing, to help people through it. So I guess that's the thing I'd bring to this discussion is, for a restaurateur, is it easier to be a part of a conglomerate, or is it, you know, to try and do it on your own? And how does that affect, you know, the success and performance with these conditions?
I think that this problem is multi-pronged problem, and it goes back even further. It goes back into education. It goes back into a lot of things that we have no control over, that are run by government, and we're not going to solve it today. But we have had, we brought up some issues that were interesting, and if anybody who is out there watching on YouTube and would like to get in touch with anybody that has spoken, please go to our website, www.trnusa.com, and you can see a list of our members there, and you can contact them or contact us directly at 561-620-8888. Thank you all for the conversation. I would like to do our intros, even though all of us, most of us here know each other. It's important for us to do our elevator speech so that people who may be watching can learn more about you and want to contact you. So let's try, and we have about 10 minutes to do it, so try to keep it at around a minute, and we'll start it out with Darren.
Good morning, everybody. Great conversation today. Darren Gall, Tracy.net. We take the aches and pains out of communications and internet services. We can help businesses to find the right solution at a price within their budget, help them just to review their current situation as how it's meeting their needs, and hopefully save them some money. Darren Gall, Tracy.net.
Thank you. Debbie K.
Morning, Debbie K, DK Consulting, matching your brand and your service to your value, empowering your employees to be the best that they can be, continuing to keep customers coming back. Debbie Cruz, DK Consulting.
Thank you. Jim, welcome back.
Thank you. Good morning again, everyone. Howard, I appreciate you having me here. Jim Cocaine with Bookworks. We're an outsourced bookkeeping firm. And Darren, to follow up on your comment, one of the biggest values we have is giving time back to business owners. Bookkeeping is a non-revenue generating task, and when you can focus on other things that are more challenging, like HR and the profitability of your business, we're a great resource. We work with companies across the country using cloud-based technology and relieve them of that tedious task. And our clients range from one-off pizza carry-out restaurants to multiple locations, including mid-range and fine dining, breweries, gastropubs, bars, etc. So that's what our focus is on, and we are continuing to grow and enjoy supporting our clients in their efforts to succeed.
Okay, thank you. Sean McCabe, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Great conversation today. Very, very interesting, and certainly very concerned for everyone. I'm John McCabe with Carpet Johnny. We make gelato, ice cream, and pastry equipment. And I'm here to show restaurants how they can make an extra little profit with our equipment. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you. Robert and Helen Gottesman are not vendors to the industry. They are operators of a traveling event companies. They tell us who you are.
I'm going to let Helen speak because my voice is
Okay.
going.
Hi, Delicious Spoonfuls will be an ice cream cart focused on employing people with special needs. We'll also be having desserts, coffees, and more. And our whole focus is on creating the jobs for people that were seen as unemployable with developmental disabilities and other disabilities, including mental illness, including getting the VAs involved, the VA veterans involved. And we look forward to working with many of you.
I just want to say one thing. You know, the conversation today was really excellent, especially with mental health. I urge everybody out there to get the book, The Better Brain by Dr. Bonnie Kaplan. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You know, the conversation that we had today is something that I just came across during the week. If anybody has a topic that they feel is important to discuss, you know, in relation to the food service industry, please bring it up to me during the week, and we can sort of do some research on it and find the people that are expert in it. And if you have any people that you think would make a good speaker for the group who are not in the group but have an expertise in a subject that we would be excited to hear about, please let me know. Let's go to Randy, Heartland.
Good morning, everybody. Randy Pumputis here, Heartland Payroll. Great subject matter today. Really ties into what we're trying to do regarding the employers, you know, retaining and maintaining and bringing on talent for their business. It's payroll season. 1 in 3 businesses right now are looking at their procedures, and we're here for you to help. We can do anything from startups to acquisitions in the hospitality industry. Thanks so much.
Hey, thank you. Peter.
Peter Robinson, Hudson Robinson Business Brokerage. Good morning. Very important discussion. I'm involved with the buying and selling of different businesses, and I see a lot of the different things that people are dealing with. I see the stresses and the strains and how it affects the owner. Very challenging. I am located in Boca Raton, Florida. If you need any assistance, please call me. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Lori at ARF Financial. No, the discussion was excellent, and I have personal experience with some of this. I mean, but it's really sad, even for children. My daughter in middle school had a friend that committed suicide. My other daughter in high school had a senior committed suicide. So if anybody's listening out there, you know, and needs help, I really hope they reach out before it's too late. It is so devastating to entire communities. These type of things, it's just devastating. And so, but I do finance for restaurants, and I help them with all different kinds of finance. So I have all kinds of resources for traditional loans, bridge loans, lines of credit. So thank you. It was a great meeting today.
And Lori's company's got a great referral program.
Right.
If you're interested in talking to her about it, it's a great program.
Thank you.
Terry, good morning.
Morning. Good meeting. A lot of subjects that did hit home for sure. I've had extended family members and friends several that have committed suicide. So I do get it. And I do try and help anybody that thinks that they're going to do it. They're not. We just, it's just a very hard subject to go from there to something else. Anyways, everyone knows I handle lead reports with the group. Anybody that wants a sample, I'm happy to send it to you. What's opening, where, how big, managers, names, owners, email addresses, phone numbers, just spreadsheets, gigantic, at least minimum of 50 a month, brand new in Florida. Georgia, minimum 30. That's it. Have a good weekend.
Okay, the dynamic duo, Chris and John.
Good morning. Before I let Chris go, I just, something, a personal note, I've been in sales for years. Average time, many times you have to get a sale is 5 to 7 times. Until they say no, don't give up. This has happened to me several times. I keep my foot in the door. So I had somebody with the SSC that I talked to Chris about 6 months ago, couldn't get a hold of them, and all of a sudden it looks like they're going to be a client of ours. Don't give up, guys, until they say no.
Wow.
Don't give up.
Right.
We
I
actually
I
have
made a
two-
sale this week, took me 25 years, honest to God,
Yeah.
I can
25
confess
years
to
to
that.
close it.
Absolutely.
So
That's what,
John, we actually have another one like that might sign today or Monday. Been after him for over a year.
And do you want to know why? Because you're still around. They see that you are successful. That's why.
Yeah.
And you never gave up.
did you say sexy or successful?
Well, who was I talking to, John?
Chris,
Oh, how
So we
about
are
both?
strategic supply chain partners. We help our clients improve their purchasing programs. We typically save between 8 and 15%. And we've expanded. We actually are working with some manufacturers and have at least one product going into potential national distribution soon. Relationships with a variety of manufacturers for gloves, packaging, et cetera. Lots of different ways we can help people. Strategic supply chain partners, and yes, we have a great referral program also.
Chris, do you want to add the energy thing?
Well, we can help clients with their energy costs, so we'll just leave it at that. So also help with chemical costs. We're every one of our clients right now, we're working on our chemicals, and we're seeing 26 to 30% reduction. It shocks me what people don't know about it.
You know, in my head, I was just gonna say that your product is something that every restaurateur should be looking into. But then I looked at the board, and I'm saying to myself, everybody here should be looked at by any restaurant owner or manager for their operations, because everything that we do here is a benefit to a restaurant operator. So if I do single out anybody, it's for the whole group. Jeff Krantz, good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Jeff Krantz, Co-Card Payment Systems. We're a national company. We do credit card processing and electronic transactions throughout the United States. There isn't anything we can't do in the movement of money. I've been in the business since 1988. I'm on the board of trustees for Co-Card. We've been very successful. We work with anything from a guy in a cart all the way up to large corporations. We work with many companies, and we work around other companies, no matter what they do. But we work also with Heartland. Heartland is one of the divisions of our new company, of the company, as we have just gotten involved, and that's the payroll division of the same company. We'd love to work with all of you. We have all the tools, and my wife tells me that I'm a nice guy.
I'll vouch for that.
Yeah, you are a nice guy.
I know Jeff for a long time. Anyway, I didn't miss anybody. I'll do mine. I'm Howard Appel, founder and publisher of Today's Restaurant News, and we offer many different services based around our digital publication on our website, trnusa.com. We offer email marketing. I just did an email blast for somebody in our 9 o'clock group. We did it on Wednesday. Today's Friday. He's had over 4,000 opens so far, and great numbers, great numbers. And we also do video email marketing that we put on YouTube. And we are now, as I said earlier, trying to help the industry with the filing of the ERTC refund. Very important, because a lot of restaurants, as we all know, are struggling to keep the doors open, and this is a way for them to get some money back. And we've been successful in doing it. some in excess of $150,000. I've got one in the works now that's close to $4 million refund. So if you know of anybody, or anybody needs help, let us know. Thank you all for coming today. Again, if you want to bring up another topic, please let me know about it. If you want to volunteer for a presentation, it's very important. If you're a restaurateur watching this and you'd like to attend the meeting, please contact us so that we can schedule you, and we'd love to meet you. Hopefully we'll see you all next week, and have a great weekend and stay safe.
See you guys.